Hi, good morning. And I'm very delighted that today we have a chance to look at the area of culture. We've talked about economics, history, sports, and today it's a great opportunity to talk about culture in India. And my guest tonight, my guest today is a very famous museum director who has built probably the most successful museum in India, Dr. Sabyasachi Mukherjee. He is the Director General of the Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj Vastu Sangrahalay, CSMVS, in Mumbai, which has gone through a complete revamp during his tenure as Director General in the last 10 years. It's a part of the UNESCO World Heritage, it's a UNESCO World Heritage Site since 2007, so I should say over 20 years. He has led the transformative conservation, education, and global collaboration efforts in museology and heritage. It's won two UNESCO awards and become a model of excellence. Dr. Mukherjee has been working with the museum, I don't know for, you will tell us for how many years, maybe 20, 30 years or more, and is a very passionate advocate of exploring India's history and cultural knowledge and making that available to everyone. On a personal note, when I visited CSVMS, I saw that there were many children and many school buses that came there, and many people of all ages who came there to see the various exhibits at the CSMVS. So he has really figured out how to get culture acceptable and available and accessible to the Indian citizens. So today we want to talk to him about how uh, how things have changed over the last 20, 30 years in museums and in making India's history accessible and global history accessible to Indian citizens, what he has done at CSMVS, and what does that say about what needs to be done to make this accessible at all other museums in India. So, Dr. Sabyasachi, welcome to our discussion.
Thank you, Adil. Thank you for giving me the opportunity. I'll be very happy to share my experience, 35 years experience.
I
So
wanted
it's
to
almost,
start out. I wanted to start out by asking you, how did you get into this field, and what has kept you in this field for so long?
I'm an accidental director general. I had no intention to join museology or museum profession. I wanted to become a social worker, but the destiny, I could not get through uh, the the social work department in the Baroda. So somebody guided me, why don't you join museology? So I thought, okay, let me try. I got into museology and then I did archaeology. Uh, I had hardly any knowledge about archaeology. तो वो भी हमने सोचा चलो वो भी देख लेते हैं क्या है. So just out of interest, but it was not my destiny. And then I came to Mumbai as an intern. I joined this museum as an intern, and now I'm here. It's almost 35 years. So that's my trajectory.
So, can you, since you've seen the industry over so long, can you talk a little bit about how museums in India have changed from the time that you joined to today? And then we'll come to what is the future. But how have things changed over the last 35 years as you've observed it?
One thing I must admit, museums are changing with the changing world. There are quite a few public institutes. They remain static due to many reasons. On the other hand, there are many new museums, private museums coming up in different geographical locations. And that's a good thing that specialized museums are coming up. But what is important, that public programming, quality of exhibition, collection knowledge, research, publication. Uh, Very few trained professionals we get to see in the country. And because maybe because of that limited resources, some of our public institutes are suffering, and that is something I feel that the government need to understand the importance of cultural institutes and giving little more support to those institutes.
Can you just talk a little bit about, we'll get to what is required going forward. Can you talk a little bit about what changes did you make in CSMVS, and how has that led to more viewership? What different kinds of people come to the museum? But what changes did you make?
Yeah, for CSMVS, what was important, engaging with communities. We were little cut off. That is what I realized, when I took charge in 2007, that this institute is slightly, isolated, not much doing in education, not much doing in other areas. There was no concept of conservation, very few research publication, literature. So idea was to connect with society, connect with communities. We came up with many programs, public programs. And what is important, Adil, whatever you do, any program, any exhibition, you bring uniqueness in your program. People would like to see something, something they never ever experienced. And when they see something that unique, they come around. And another area I must share with you, as part of museum extension services, because this is one of the few institutes in the country supported by the government. We are unaided by the government, so it's a people's museum, by the people, for the people. We thought, why not, we connect people living in suburbs, living in small villages, districts. So we came up with the museum on wheels concept. You can say that accessibility, making museum more accessible to people. Though we are located in South Mumbai, but we are everywhere in western part of India, largely, covering Maharashtra, Goa, Karnataka, and Gujarat. We started with one big bus. Now we have three big buses traveling all the time, interior part of Maharashtra, Goa, Karnataka, and Gujarat, reaching out to villages, schools. So if we are bringing, about 1 million visitors to Mumbai museum, we are also reaching out to another, 2 to 3 million visitors, 2 to 3 million people through our activities, through our program. And I think all these activities, programs, exhibitions made this museum a museum of ideas. And that is what, the Economist in 2023, the inaugural issue, described this museum as a museum of ideas, and that is something we are very proud of.
And what Dr. Sabyasachi, when you take your programming within the museum and as you send it out in the buses, what are some of the exhibitions that you find are most interesting or most popular with different age groups?
See, you have to you have to plan and design exhibitions program according to the interest or needs of society. That is what I say, according to the needs of society. We are living in 2025, so you have to give more importance to contemporary society rather your own selfish interest. So the first exhibition, I remember distinctly Indian life and landscape through the eyes of Western artists from the Victorian Albert Museum, and that was their first exhibition in India. And that exhibition attracted largely, researchers, students, scholars from different strata. But the next exhibition we did in 2014-15, Egyptian collection, Mummy, from the British Museum. And that was a popular exhibition. The exhibition was here for 3 months. And just imagine in 3 months, about 300,000 people visited. And there was a long queue, touching Flora Fountain from museum gate to Flora Fountain, people standing in queue. Because they are so curious to know about, about the global history, about India's connection with the rest of the world. And that is something, we felt it's important that any exhibition we do, we bring that, India's connection with the rest of the world, and that reflected in our next exhibition, path-breaking exhibition, India and the World, a History in 9 Stories. And I tell you, probably you will know after that exhibition, 2018, India and the world changed drastically. Now British Museum, they are doing a big show on ancient India traditions and religions. And just a few days ago, I have received a proposal from New South Wales Museum, Australia. They are also planning a big exhibition on ancient India. It never happened. It never happened. World never ever acknowledged, but the moment they got to know about India's contribution, how India contributed in the world knowledge, they started recognizing. And just now, if you visit the British Museum, as you enter, you will see they have done, the last exhibition we did, ancient sculpture, in conversation with India, Greece, Rome, Egypt, and Assyria. They could not, take that exhibition back to London, but they created, a smaller version in collaboration with the CSMVS curators. And they say that Mumbai, London, with 3 ancient sculptures co-curated by CSMVS curators, and it is written there that co-curated by CSMVS curator. So you feel, when you go there and you see that, that some exhibition at the British Museum co-curated by the CSMVS curators, you feel very proud. It never happened. So these are the things, extremely important, that how we share our stories. And that is what all the time I say, that museum is not the building. Museum is not just a place with old objects behind the glasses. It's an idea. It's a great idea. And that idea needs to be narrated.
I was going to ask you, so you have expanded, it's not just for people in India, the museum, it's for people around the world. The spreading of Indian culture around the world is also what you see your mission as. I wanted to ask you, India has, if you look overall at the number of museums and the number of artifacts, I would assume that India has a huge number of artifacts, right, of which only a very few are actually shown. Is that true?
Absolutely true. Absolutely true. And I tell you, Indian Museum, Kolkata, the oldest museum, the oldest in Asia, and they have the largest collection. What you see there, probably the 5% of the total collection. National Museum Delhi, they have a very rich collection, probably a little over 200,000 antiquities and art objects. But what you see, probably 7 to 8% of the total collection. At CSMVS, due to paucity of space, we can share only 10 to 12% of total collection. But what we do here at CSMVS, we rotate. We constantly rotate. So people get to see more. And that is so important. Even Archaeological Survey of India, they have a huge, huge collection. And I genuinely feel, we really we did injustice to our history. We could not highlight our achievements. There are many things to be told, many stories to be narrated.
So, Dr. Sabyasachi, what you're saying is that we actually have all this, we have a huge amount of artifacts, we have a huge amount of stories, but we don't have enough space to show it or enough capability to convert them into stories and take it all over India and the world. Would that be right?
Yes, you are right. See that trained staff, this is a specialized area. You have to have capable staff. So how do we build capacity building? That's very important. How we train our staff. They understand the value of objects. So these are the things need to be discussed. I don't know, but they are all important.
So, Dr. Sabyasachi, I wanted to ask you, what is, I know you have millions of artifacts, right? Can you give a little bit of a description of some of your most interesting artifacts that you have, that you feel the most proud about, to give our viewers an idea of the kinds of uh, sculptures, artifacts that you have in the museum?
Yeah, certainly. I'm just going to share, 4 or 5 important antiquities and art objects from the CSMVS collection. We have a little over 70,000 antiquities and art objects. For many years, nobody knew that this museum has a wonderful uh, inscription collection. And most of them, they were kept in the storage. In one fine morning, I went, as a young director, just to see the collection and study. And then I found Ashoka's edict from Chopara. And that is, the earliest literary evidence of Bombay city, the earliest. It goes back to 3rd century BC. And brought it to the gallery, just clean it out, conserved, and prepared proper pedestal, and then highlighted so people come to know. Now, why this this stone slab with some graffiti marks is so important? Now, at one look, you feel graffiti, but that's the earliest, script of India, Brahmi, 3rd century BC. When you come closer, you see. And as you start reading, very few people can read Brahmi. Since we have archaeology background, we can read Brahmi and translate into English. And the moment we started, then we realized the message of the first king. It was so important, particularly the last line, where he is talking about the importance of environment in 3rd century BC. When he's talking about morality, that respect to seniors, and just imagine in his public inscription, he is telling people respect to slaves, like in today's language, domestic help. And I was wondering that how many of us teach our kids to respect domestic help. But the first king of India, if we consider Ashoka the Great, in 3rd century BC, he is talking about morality, peace, environment, the importance of environment, that each and every village should have a talab. That's the issue today we are facing. And we are talking, his language. and he thought about, that every village should have a talab. So that is one of the masterpieces in our collection. And then the second, object I would like to share, Gajalakshmi from Pawnee. Uh, Now it has gone to London British Museum. When you visit the Ancient India exhibition, you see the Gajalakshmi from CSMVS, uh, dated 2nd century BC, one of the earliest representation, or maybe the earliest representation of Lakshmi, and that is in our collection, and we are very proud of it. It's very important sculpture. And then the third,
Can
what
you
is
just
important,
so from which century is the Lakshmi?
2nd century BC, before
I see.
Christ,
Okay.
2nd century BC. And then the third, important collection in our miniature painting. We have the largest Nayanshuk paintings in our collection. There are altogether 17 Nayanshuk paintings. Nayanshuk, the great Pahari artist, his collection, his paintings are here. It's a rare, collection, and that is something one cannot miss in our miniature painting gallery. And besides,
And what
sculpture,
centuries are those from?
these are 16th, 17th century Nanshuk paintings, Pahari, 17th century, yeah.
Okay.
And besides sculptures and paintings, we have a moderately good collection of European paintings. Uh, in very few Indian museums, you get to see the global collection. We are very fortunate, and thanks to Tata family for sharing their collection. So people of Mumbai, people of India, they get the opportunity to see global collection. Uh, there is one particular painting, the Sword of Damocles. Very often we use the Sword of Damocles, and I say the Sword of Damocles is in our collection in the European painting gallery by Antoine Dubost, the French artist, 18th century French artist. It's a masterpiece. People from all over the world come to CSMVS to see the Sword of Damocles. So these are these are important collections, but there are many. I just shared a few for information.
I wanted to ask you, you also have a very interesting collection of coins from ancient India to modern. Can you talk about that a little bit?
We have 33,000 coin collection. It's a huge collection, uh, but through coin, you can reconstruct India's history, and that is what we try to do in our coin section. There is a separate gallery dedicated to Indian coins, where you get to see, punch mark, the beginning, punching. So punch mark coin, Janapada coins, tribal coins, uh, and then the Mauryan, Satavahana, chronologically up to British period. So, and then we added, post-independence quite a few. So you get to see the chronological evolution, the history of India, how it developed over the years. So that is only possible through.
Can you describe your favorite coin out of your collection?
No, my favorite coins, of course, Gupta gold coins. I love them from technology point of view, and then the Mughal coins. But Gupta coins, they are unique in their own ways, dated 4th, 5th century, and the way they developed, the casting and the bust and the depiction of different motifs, unbelievable. And later on, you see the development in Mughal period, and then you see, uh, Indo-Greek, of course, but Indo-Greek, they are different, completely different from the Gupta coins. Gupta, it's more, Indianized, the form, the design, the motif, and that is something, we need to know how it all started. Influences you could see, influences came from all over the world. So they have taken away some of Indian elements, and we also absorbed some foreign elements in our art. But during the Gupta period, first time you come across the Indianized process started, looking at things from Indian way.
How do you get young people started in understanding Indian heritage, history, and how do you get them interested in the museum?
See, children, today's children, they are curious about their past, and curiosity is important. That how you create curiosity in their minds. That's the challenge before us. So we try, with our collection, with our objects, uh, like the mummy. We have a mummy collection, one mummy in our collection, and quite a few Egyptian antiquities and art objects in our collection. So we share, highlights of our Egyptian collection, and the way, we highlight raises many questions in your minds. When we address, ancient India, from Mauryan period to Gupta period after Fort, the way we present, raises many questions in their minds through social media, through website, through our education program, and through our, information process. There are many, many types of information process our education department they produce, uh, and distribute amongst the schools. So schools, they come when they come to know about the content. They come to the museum to see, and it's like, to explore. So they come to museum to explore, and that is important. That creating curiosity. Probably you will know, in past, people used to call Indian Museum Jadughar. So Indian audience, they feel that, there is some jadoo within the museum, and we must go and explore. That is good thing. That the curiosity is good thing. Uh, they when they are curious, they want to know more.
And which brings me to my question on technology. I mean, we've talked about the past and the artifacts you have. How are you using technology in a sense to bring it to life? What are some of the interesting initiatives in applying technology that we are hearing about so much these days?
I have a different view altogether. I feel, I personally look at technology as my servant, not as my master. Uh, when it comes to dissemination, yes, technology plays very important role. Uh, but people also get, a kind of fatigue, we call blue disease. If everywhere you have, digital this thing, then you lose your interest, and after some time, you leave that place. That is something we observe. So how do you maintain a balance? That is important. In most of our galleries, you will see interactive screen where you can participate, and the way those interactive boards are created. Any question, anything, you can ask, and the technology, will provide information you can play with, and you learn, play and learn, that kind of, approach. And the social media plays very important role. Uh, Website, through website, we provide large chunk of information through website. So these are the things, we are using in museum, but museum is largely, dealing with originals. So here you experience original. Information part we use for, dissemination. There we use technology.
Okay. No, no, that's great. I wanted to ask you, you know, China has embarked on, a creation of 1,000 new museums. If we ask people, I was reading an article the other day that the Louvre and the Uffizi are so crowded now that people are talking about over tourism and over interest in these galleries. What do you see in India? Are you getting to a point where we have sufficient museums, we have sufficient capability? What do you see as the future? Because today, when we talk about museums around the world, we have not gotten to the point where Indian museums are among the top five, I would say.
Uh, well, museums are changing. As I said, museums are changing with the changing world. It's a question of time. Uh, Certainly, we have a very limited resource. Culture was never ever equated with other sectors, but we are not understanding that cultural sector can create thousands of job employment. That is something, we have to realize, we have to understand. Uh, what China is doing, what other European museums are doing, uh, things are different. Indian audience is completely different. I personally feel Indian audience more matured, and there is a huge cultural hunger. There is a huge cultural hunger, and we really don't know how to feed them. That's the problem. In Europe, they don't have cultural hunger. It's a part of their lifestyle that they visit museum. They are, museum going people. Uh, in China, what you said, number of museums they created, but the fact, most of the museums with practically no collection, very few collection, and many of them under lock and key. That is what I hear. Uh, but we don't have adequate museums. The fact, we don't have adequate museums in the country. Uh, we are blessed with cultural heritage. Every kilometer, or maybe every 100 meters, you encounter a new culture. Uh, we 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 created many iconic institutes post independence, but we could not create one institute on par with IIT, IIM dedicated to heritage management. And that is so important. That is so important. You create 30 or 35 cultural managers, and you look after your monuments, your institutes with those trained professionals, and after 5 years, you export your professionals to Southeast Asia and other countries, the way IIT, IIM, they export their engineers uh, all over the world. So that is something, I feel genuinely the time has come. We create a world-class institute like IIM, IIT, dedicated to heritage management, and look after our collection better.
So we don't have a problem of collections. We only have a problem of how to uh, how to curate it, show it, manage it.
Absolutely, collection collection knowledge is very important. I just, share from my experience. Uh, Most of the museums in India, I know, say 80% collection remained unpublished. You really know nothing about those collections. So how do we research? How do we highlight those collections so people come to know? As we are talking about India's connection with the rest of the world, from Indus Valley time to today, India was well connected with material evidences. We prove, and India is one of the oldest civilizations. Out of three oldest civilizations in India is one of the oldest, and India communicated from the day one, communicated with the world. Many of us don't know the art of writing. When the art of writing was invented, we really don't know the history of cotton. The history of cotton goes back to Indus Valley. We don't talk about creativity and innovation. The creativity and innovation, if you look around, most of the things were actually created, during that period, from 3200 BC to 1500 CE. So the furniture, the textile, even the shoes, everything, originated from that period. And how do we acknowledge our ancestors? We forgot our ancestors. So these are the things, we need to talk, we need to share. So our next generation, young people, they learn from the past.
And do you see, so we have a lot to talk about, and we have not got enough capability to do that around the world. Do you see the private, I'm going to come to the private sector for a second. Do you see the private sector stepping up in this area? Are there more private museums coming up? Is there more funding coming from private sources? Is it focused in a certain area?
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल अभी तो बहुत सारी corporates, they are coming around institutes, they are helping institute, they would like to help. Institute should be in position to accept help from them. That is important.
Right.
and CSR, particularly CSR helping institutes like anything. We are getting good help, good support. As I said in the beginning, we are supported by the people. Practically, we have absolutely no problem. Whenever we needed any support, they are coming, they are helping us, and they are looking for some interesting project. What is important, cultural leaders, that most of the public institutes, you don't see leaders, most of the institutes are headless. So they are unable to accept, unable to take advantage of this CSR money. I think this is important. We need to think that how we involve people in the museum development, cultural development.
And what is, so for example, if you go to museums around the world, do they all get their management and do they all get their leaders from their local colleges, or are there a few institutes around the world that seem to generate a large number of people who wind up in leadership roles?
No, see, in Europe, they have a completely different way of doing things. In America, they have a different style. That is what I noticed. Uh, Americans, take a lot of interest in cultural institutes. They respect the institutes in their country. So institutes play a very important role in America. Uh, like, the endowment, the kind of endowment they give to different institutes, unthinkable. But of course, money comes with the stream. Many of them, they become part of the management. In Europe, they try to maintain the balance. They, they do accept money, but they are very much conscious about their role, and they try to limit their role. Uh, in India, I think we have to develop a kind of policy, uh, how we allow people to play their role in the institutional development, cultural institutional development. So these are the things need separate discussion, uh, but each country function in different ways.
Okay. What is so over the next 10 years, what do you see in terms of the leading Indian museums, and what do you see in terms of CSMVS? Where are you trying to go in the next 10 years?
Uh, well, Indian museums landscape is going to change. There is no second question. Uh, Many new museums are coming up. There are quite a few private museums are coming up here and there. I know. CSMVS is going to play a very important role as a lead museum because its connection with the rest of the world. The next exhibition we are doing, I'm just giving an example, Ancient World Gallery. Again, Ancient World Gallery, the whole concept to understand ancient India's role in the ancient world. And 7 iconic foreign museums participating in this exhibition. British Museum, Berlin State Museum, Rietberg Museum, 2 museums from Greece and with Al-Sabah. And what is interesting, they considered 3 years loan. 3 years loan never happened in the history of museum movement. So the world is changing. They are looking at East differently, particularly India differently, with a huge amount of respect. And we are very happy to connect with the world. It's not only through exhibition. We have the best conservation department in the country. There is no second question. So through conservation research also, we are connecting different labs in different institutes. We are also helping many other institutes that never happened in past. That Indian conservators are going abroad, Europe, uh, and helping those institutes like Dresden in Germany. Indian collection in Dresden Museum was conserved by CSMVS conservators. Kuwait Museum collection was conserved by CSMVS conservation department. So these are, these are some highlights I'm sharing with you. Never happened 10 years ago. So world is, looking at India differently, and that's very positive.
Dr. Sabyasachi, I wanted to end by asking you, are you optimistic about the museum scene in India over the next few years?
I'm always optimistic.
No, I wanted to thank you very much for sharing with us. And I think I would encourage everybody to go visit CSMVS and see what an amazing job has been done in creating a world-class museum in India with all of the regulations and constraints. It is an amazing place that I'm sure everybody will enjoy. Dr. Sabyasachi, thank you very much for your time, and we look forward to meeting you in person. Thank you.
Thank you, Adil. Thank you so much. Thank you.